You know what really disturbs me? When an officer cries on an inmate's shoulder. When an officer does not talk to their fellow officers about a problem, they talk to an inmate about their problem. When an officer doesn't like what the sergeant has done to them, they don't go to the sergeant to talk to them mano a mano, face to face, hand to hand, and talk as men or grown men or women. They go to an inmate and tell the inmate, you know what the sergeant did to me? And then they start to discuss their issues with their sergeant. And then it goes from that to discussing things that are going on within the institution, within the jail, within the prison. And then it gets into policies and procedures. And the inmates the whole time are patting the officer on the shoulder saying, it'll be okay, we understand you. We know he's a shithead. We know he's a dickhead or her. We understand everything. And while the inmates are telling you that, they're laughing inside. They're looking back at their friends. They're all laughing because you're so stupid to come tell them everything. They know that. The inmates know when you come cry on their shoulder that you're not supposed to do that. They actually see you as a weak person doing this because you're coming to them to cry on their shoulder. They know your job is to have safety and security, control safety and security in the prison. You know, all the firm, fair, and consistent, all these things. They know you're supposed to do that, and they know you're supposed to follow policy and procedure. But what do? Sergeant, lieutenant, somebody jumps your rear for something, and you run to an inmate to boo-hoo on their shoulder. Now, you know you've had one of those in your prison before. You know you've had one of those in your jail before. Right now, we have a situation going on that I can't confirm that it is actually the officer calling an inmate podcast. But many officers around the state of Florida are very convinced by the voice and the way the person talks that this is an officer disgruntled with a sergeant. And he's called an inmate podcast. And the inmate podcast is calling him LOL. And they're denying that this is an officer that is on active duty right now. Well, I have just confirmed through several people that the person that we believe it to be has quit the Department of Corrections. He's badmouthed them to death on this inmate podcast, and he quit. If he quit, good. Good. Saves a lot of trouble for an investigation, and we got rid of somebody. You hate the department? Leave. You notice that a lot of people like this, and I'll leave that one alone because we're probably going to hear more about that later as time goes on. The truth will come out that he's hiding under a fictitious name, LOL, on an inmate podcast. But anyway, the person that they're talking about on the podcast is confirmed through several people that he has quit the Department of Corrections. That's what he needs to do. Get out of there and shut his mouth. Quit crying. You know, you go to your sergeant if you have a problem, talk to him. You don't like the way that turns out, use your chain of command and do what you have to do. But never cross the line and go to inmates for advice or help. Never go to social media and cry about a sergeant on social media unless you want to lose your job. I'm guessing here now, guessing. Remember that word I just said? I'm guessing he quit or resigned because he got on social media and shot his mouth off, knew that down the line he was going to get investigated for it and terminated. But we'll see. Hey, I could be totally wrong. But this video is not just about him. This is about anybody that goes and cries to an inmate. If you are going to go and cry to an inmate about your problems, and you're going to discuss departmental policies, issues, talk about other officers to inmates, you need to quit. You need to quit your job and get the heck out of here before we fire you. Okay? There are ways to handle this as a grown man or a grown woman, face to face with your supervisor. I just said it. And then you can move on up the chain of command if you have to. But unbelievable. And I think we've all in our career, maybe not people who just started their career in their first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But if you hang in the corrections 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 years, you're going to come across one of these officers that boo-hoos to the inmates. Now, I'm retired after 28 and a half years. Corrections, 10 years military. So now I can sit here and safely say, those kind of officers that boo-hoo to inmates, I would like to just back slap them across the face and say, get your wimpy ass out of here. You are undermining the agency. You are placing your fellow officers in danger by befriending these inmates. Why? Because you're such a little wimp. You have to hear it from the inmates. You can't go to your own staff, apparently, because apparently if you go to your own staff, you're not going to hear what you want to hear. So you run to an inmate so they can console you. It's okay, Officer Z. It's okay, Officer Q. Whatever. I'm not even going to use a fake name because I don't want to insult anybody. It's okay, Officer Y. These guys are all mean. They're all bad guys. You're a good guy. That's what the inmates are going to tell you. So now what? You're going to go home. You feel good. See, the inmates understand my problem with that sergeant. See, the inmates know. How come my own staff members don't know? I'm going to quit this job. These are a bunch of assholes. I hate the Department of Corrections. Get the hell out of here now. How fast can you get out? Turn your shit in before the door hits you in the ass. Anyway, I won't make it too long, but you know these crybabies we're talking about. The ones that won't talk to their own staff members, won't talk to their own chain of command, but they'll cry on the shoulder of an inmate in a heartbeat. Not needed, not wanted, no place for it. Get out, we don't want you. Thanks a lot, folks, for listening. Let me know what you think. Have you ever had a problem with officers crying on the shoulder of inmates? Gary York, True Prison Stories. Take care, everybody.